03. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Commissioners Gershenson,
Here.
Gengel. Gengel, I see you, but I can't hear you.
Here, sorry.
That's okay. Thank you. Hoffman,
Present.
Jackson. I didn't hear Jackson.
Oh, man.
Is Jackson here?
Yeah, Jackson, I see Jackson. Jackson, we can't hear you. Can't hear you. Okay. Skip over Jackson. We'll come back to it.
Okay. Kokendorfer,
Here.
Kowal,
Here.
Kuhn,
Here.
Long,
Here.
Lubes,
Here.
Markham,
Here.
McGilvray,
Here.
Middleton.
So, Tom, if you take the cursor key to the bottom of the camera screen, to the mic and the camera. Oh, yeah, there you go.
Okay. Yeah, I'm here.
Thank you. Miller,
Here.
Nelson,
Here.
Powell,
Here.
Quarles,
Here.
Biz,
Here.
Taub,
Here.
Weipert,
Here.
Woodward,
Here.
Zach,
Here.
Jackson.
Here.
There she is. Okay. Yay. Mr. Chair, you have a quorum.
Fantastic. All right, then the meeting for the March 31st of the Oakland County Board of Commission meeting, the second one in this remote way, comes to order. I'll be giving the invocation here today, so we're going to bow our heads as we begin to do the business of Oakland County this evening. I think it's very important to keep in mind all the families, friends, members of our community, and all our fellow countrymen across the country that are dealing with COVID-19 and the impact that this pandemic has in all of us. With that comes incredible responsibility for each of us, but to lead with compassion and be diligent to continue to do what's necessary so that we can all get through this. And so with all that, I ask that we keep folks' thoughts in mind. Amen. And my helper here Emma wants to help say the Pledge of Allegiance, and that's why she came down. So I'm going to rise a little flag back here, if you can see it. It's the only flag I have here. You ready, Ellie? This is Eleanor. So ready? Turn it off. I believe allegiance to the flag of the
United States of America,
to the republic
and to the republic for which it stands,
One nation
under God,
justice for all.
There you go. Good job. Good job. Okay. Thank you. All right. Let's move on to the next item on the agenda is approval of the minutes from the March 18th meeting. Is there a motion? Moved by Commissioner McGilvray, seconded by Commissioner Spiz. Any discussion on the minutes? Seeing none. All in favor of approving the minutes, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, say nay. No nays. Approves unanimously. Moves us on to approval of the agenda. Commissioner McGilvray.
Motion.
Commissioner McGilvray moves the agenda, seconded by Commissioner Gingell. Discussion on the agenda as presented. Seeing none, all in favor of approving the agenda, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The agenda is approved unanimously. That brings us on to communications. I'll turn it over back to our clerk, Lisa Brown. Any communications?
Yes, we have, I'm trying to move this. I'm going to read them off my computer. We have a few this evening. The first is dated March 11th, 2020. Dear Mr. Woodward, since it started in 2001, the Brownfield program has proven to be a program that will have a lasting legacy in Oakland County. At its core, the Brownfield program seeks to improve the quality of life for the citizens of Oakland County by protecting the unique environmental features of the county. It also allows redevelopment of our cities and lands. The Brownfield program ensures the development of sustainable communities through remediation and reinvesting in contaminated and abandoned properties. By increasing the local tax bases, facilitating job growth, and utilizing existing infrastructure, the program breathes life back into our community. In accordance with the Brownfield Redevelopment Financing Act, which describes the creation and designation of the Brownfield governing body, I have officially authorized the reappointment of the following individuals to the terms listed below to the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. Let's hope I can scroll down. 1-year terms, Mike Gingell and David Woodward. 2-year terms, Peter Mena. And if I can scroll down, oh boy, I should have grabbed my mouse. Hang on, sorry, technical difficulties. Okay, I'm having a problem. Hang on, can I put this phone down so I can? Okay. Okay, whoops. Scroll too much. 3-year terms, Dan Hunter, Grant Trigger, Peter Webster. You need to see me while I'm saying this. Ladies and gentlemen of the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, please confirm these reappointments to the Oakland County Brownfield Redevelopment Authority Board of Directors. It is with your approval that the Brownfield Board of Directors will continue to pave the way for redevelopment efforts and preservation of green space throughout Oakland County. Sincerely, David Coulter, Oakland County Executive. Okay, the next one. Get down here. There we go. Is dated March 31st to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, please accept this letter as notification that I have exercised the authority granted under the provisions of the board rules. The chairperson of the board, for the purposes of meeting a submission deadline, shall be granted authority to approve grant applications in excess of $250,000. The grant application deadline for the fiscal year 2020 Michigan Small Business Relief Program application was March 23rd, 2020. Oakland County Economic Development and Community Affairs has prepared a grant application on behalf of Oakland County in the amount of $2,100,000. Due to the board calendar, it was not possible for the department to submit the application for full board consideration in accordance with our normal procedures. Due to the COVID-19 pandemic, the pronouncement of a state of emergency for Oakland County, and the sudden announcement and deadline for submission, the application was submitted upon an expedited review and authorization from the county executive's office. I have authorized the submission of this grant application. Sincerely, David T. Woodward, Board Chairman, Oakland County Board of Commissioners. And the next one is dated, if I can scroll, sorry, there we go. Oh, this one I have on paper. To the Oakland County Board of Commissioners, from Hillary Chambers, Chief Deputy County Executive, dated March 31st, 2020, regarding temporary hiring freeze. As we continue to take on the immense challenge of containing the spread of COVID-19 and do everything we can to support our residents, nonprofits, businesses, and local communities during this pandemic, we must prioritize response efforts and put in place budget control mechanisms. Tonight, we are bringing forward a resolution for a hiring freeze to the Board of Commissioners. This hiring freeze would be effective upon board approval and go through June 30th, 2020. We will continue to allow the hiring process for any positions related to COVID-19, 24/7 operations, state or federal mandates, grant funding programs, and part-time non-eligible. We recognize we may need to hire other positions outside of these parameters, but they will be taken on a case-by-case basis. Thank you in advance for your support of this resolution. And then finally, the final one. as dated March 31st, 2020, to the Oakland County Board of Commissioners. Ladies and gentlemen, please accept this letter as notification that I've exercised the authority granted under the provisions of the board rules, allowing the chairperson to submit a grant application in excess of $250,000. The grant application deadline for the Michigan Municipal League Foundation Be Counted 2020 Census Campaign was March 13th, 2020. The Oakland County Executive Administration has prepared a grant application on behalf of Oakland County in the amount of $250,000. Due to the changes in the board's grant submission process and the board calendar, it was not possible for the department to submit the application for full board
This
consideration
conference will now
in
be
accordance-
recorded.
in accordance with our normal procedures. The application was reviewed by all appropriate county departments. I have authorized the submission of this grant application. Sincerely, David T. Woodward, Chairman of the Board of Oakland County Board of Commissioners. That's it. Sorry that it was a struggle.
All right, no worries. Okay.
Who do we lose?
I think we're missing Commissioner Powell. Or is Commissioner Powell's camera not on? Commissioner Powell, are you there?
Yes, I'm back. I'm sorry. I had a technical thing.
Yep, nope, you're good. Okay, so motion by Commissioner McGilvery to receive the communication, seconded by Commissioner Long. All in favor, say aye.
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 Opposed, say nay. The communications as presented are approved unanimously. That brings us to public comment. And so we have invited the public to give comment through a variety of ways. One being email, to have comments emailed in, which we'll read into the record. Or can call in live to the presentation. So do we have any public comment?
Currently, there is no one speaking up for public comments. I don't have any online submissions. I don't have anyone on the GoToMeeting video, and I have one participant on the phone. They haven't announced themselves to participate, so I have no public comment at this time.
Okay. So going once, going twice. Person on the phone wants to speak during public comment. That why you called in.
There's one person that just joined the GoTo audio video, so I'll see if they can speak it up. They just dropped. So.
All right. Okay. Seeing no public comment, I will declare public comment closed, and that will move us on to reports of standing committees. Just have really one committee, the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee, that's been operating under the emergency order.
First, you have the consent agenda.
That's what I'm doing.
Oh, okay.
The first motion is the consent agenda from the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee. Is there a motion to approve?
I move it.
Moved by Commissioner Zach, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. Is there any discussion on items on the consent agenda? Commissioner Taub.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I'd like to remove item I, if I might, please, from the consent agenda and put it on the regular agenda.
Item I will be moved from the consent agenda and moved to the regular agenda without objection. Is there any further discussion on the consent agenda?
Thank you.
Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the consent agenda as it's at the end of the agenda minus item I.
Yes. On the consent agenda, Commissioners Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
I'm sorry.
Nelson,
Yeah. Yes.
thank you. Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Taub,
Yes.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the consent agenda is adopted. That moves us on to the regular agenda. And I'm going to recognize Commissioner Gershenson, the Vice Chair of the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee, to take us through. We're going to start with item I that was pulled from the consent agenda, just to keep it in order.
Okay, well, thank you, Mr. Chair. So I have 4 items on the regular agenda today. And the first is the resolution about Eric Overall, but I don't have the name in front of me.
This is the Board of Commissioners' adoption of the Eric Overall Memorial Death Benefit Policy for Oakland County. So
Yes.
Commissioner Gershenson moves the report, seconded by Commissioner Hoffman. All in favor of accepting the report, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. And then Commissioner Lubes moves adoption of the Eric Overall Memorial Death Benefit, seconded by Commissioner Kowal. And let's open up for discussion. Mr. Taub, you wanted to pull this from the consent agenda. Did you have any comment on the?
This conference is no longer being recorded.
You know what, Mr. Chair? I apologize for pulling this from the consent agenda. I don't know what the correct, I'm using the agenda I received yesterday. And on the agenda that I received yesterday, that was not the resolution. The resolution was Facilities Planning and Engineering 52-4, Troy District Court Fire Alarm System.
Oh, yeah.
So I
So
apologize to you.
no worries. Okay, so we'll vote on this. That one was already moved
Okay,
to the.
all right. I think this is a wonderful thing if you want to comment on it. And I
That's
never
right.
would have pulled it from the consent. Okay.
I think
thank you.
everyone agrees. That item was already pulled from the consent agenda per request, I think, from commissioners, and so we will take up that one next. Seeing no further discussion. On the any other further discussion on this? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Point of order, Dave. What are we voting? Which resolution are we voting on?
I was just about to say that, the
Okay.
adoption of the Eric Overall Memorial Death Benefit Policy for Oakland County.
Thank you.
Yep. Okay, so we're voting on that resolution. Commissioners Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Okendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Powell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Ginjal.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the Eric Overall Memorial Death Benefit Policy for Oakland County is adopted. That brings us to the next item under the regular agenda. I'll recognize Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. The next is a resolution titled Facilities Planning and Engineering for the 52nd 4th District Court Fire Alarm System Enhancement Project. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend adoption of the foregoing resolution.
Moved by Commissioner Gershison, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion on this? Commissioner Taub?
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I will not be supporting this. I happened to listen to the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee meeting the other day, and I learned that the county really doesn't have to be doing this, but they felt they would be very nice to the court in Troy and do it. Now, as you know, I represent the 48th District Court, and many other courts in our county, our community support those courts. They pay taxes for them in places like Royal Oak and Berkeley and Farmington Hills and West Bloomfield and other places. And I understand the difference between the county courts and the courts and why it all came into being. But I do feel that this is the responsibility of the Troy Court and the city of Troy. And I think it's also Clausen is part of that. They ought to pick up the bill for something like this. I do not oppose the fire alarm system. I think that's imperative. I'm just not going to be supporting this because I think my court, the 48th District Court, happens to pay taxes for both their own court and for the county court. So thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Taub. Is there anybody else that would like to speak to this item? Commissioner Miller. Commissioner Miller, do you want to speak to the,
Sorry about
Commissioner
that. Yeah, I just think, I just want to say that I'll be supporting this. I feel safety, no matter the cost, is a good thing to be ahead of the game instead of behind the game. I would say it's our due diligence to keep all citizens and people working for court systems, county government, everybody safe at all times, no matter the cost.
Any further people want to speak? Commissioner Taub, I'll get to you. Commissioner Taub for a sec. Commissioner Quarles, then Commissioner Taub for a second time. Commissioner Quarles.
Just clarity, Mr. Chair, the 52nd courts, those are the county courts, isn't it? Isn't it a series of the 52nd?
The 52nd court are county district courts, and there are 4 of them spread across the county.
Okay,
That
thank
falls
you.
under our jurisdiction, correct?
Yeah, thank you.
Commissioner Taub. For a
I
second time.
certainly would. I think you all know me well enough to know that I certainly would support any kind of life support at any point in time. That isn't the point. The point is that I think that I don't like the double dipping, and I haven't. I've stood for this for years and years and years, and here I am again. Thank you, Mr.
I'm just checking something really quickly here. Yeah, okay. I mean, to Commissioner Taub's point, Commissioner Powell.
Is there any way we can get an opinion from the commissioners that serve that district just to get some feedback from them and where they're at with it?
That's my district, District 16.
Commissioner
I'm sorry, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Lutz.
It's Clausen and Troy, and I don't feel like I'm taking advantage of the system for the money in my district. It was a district that was in need, and we stepped up for it. I'm happy to support it.
Thank you.
Any further discussion on this item? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton.
Yeah.
Sorry, was that a yes, Middleton?
Yes, that's correct.
Thank you. Miller,
Yes.
Nelson, Yes. Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
No.
Whitebird,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 20 yeas, 1 nay.
A sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution passes. I will give the floor again to Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. So next we have a resolution entitled Economic Development and Community Affairs. This resolution is approving the Michigan Economic Development Corporation grant and creation of the Oakland County Small Business Stabilization Fund. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend adoption of the foregoing resolution.
Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Miller. Any discussion? Commissioner Gingell.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just want to, I guess, make a point of clarity because I appreciate what the administration is looking to do here. We talked about it in the Emergency Operations and Oversight Committee. But the one thing I think is important is that we all understand that we have a sense of urgency to do things in this situation. But I also think we need to have some patience and wisdom. So, you know, policies and expenditures don't get approved until this board votes with 11 votes. And over the last day or two, I've had a number of emails sent to me from different places talking about apply now for the Oakland County Small Business Grant for COVID-19, which I fully support. But those things shouldn't be out there until this board actually takes action. They're coming from city managers, chambers, and other things. And I know the application form is out on the website, but we just got to be sure in the midst of our urgency around everything we're doing in this pandemic that we don't get out in front of our skis here. And that's my only request.
Thank you, Commissioner Gingell. Commissioner Powell.
The only thing that I had read on the website was the 1.5 that we've been granted from the state. I don't think it was anything on there about this part that we about to vote. Or am I looking at something different? Thanks.
Well, I think that there, I mean, if I can speak to the point is that I know that there was a press conference announcing not only an award from the state of Michigan for 1.15 million, but a announced proposal for the board to consider to not only match it dollar for dollar, but to match it with an additional $700,000 to create the Oakland County Small Business Stabilization Fund, with additional $700,000 to create this $3 million fund. And then the application went on the website, and I mean, it's been out there to apply. We haven't. This is the resolution that will approve the creation of that fund, as well as the appropriate match for those dollars. Commissioner Gingell, for a second time.
Yeah, thank you. So now on the other hand, I do want to acknowledge the administration, Sean Carlson. He asked a lot of questions in a short period of time and he responded. The devil is going to be in the detail on this, how we administer, how we select, how we ensure the funds are used appropriately. All the questions that this board saw in the email that were surrounding. So again, just urging urgency, patience, and wisdom on this and other matters. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Gingell. To that, I think as a reminder that there was an amendment that I don't know, is it attached to the bottom of the agenda? Where is it? One second. Here. Is Mr. Ward on? Where I can't see, I can't happen to see the agenda.
Page 234.
234. Thank you. So one of the, I think Commissioner Gingell brings up a very good point. In terms of the importance of not only this board, playing an active role in approving this, approving a match of equal dollars to help support, to basically double the direct impact to support our small businesses that have been impacted by the pandemic, and as well as add additional dollars to help with the retrofitting of manufacturing to help support the manufacturing of more personal protection equipment. I've asked and working with the executive office to ensure that commissioners are part of the local panels that are that will be part of the process of evaluating and making decisions on where these grants go. And I believe all the commissioners received a copy of those, where those districts are. There are state requirements and how those dollars can be awarded, the $2.3 million for small business, the small business grants. This resolution, the amendment that's here that asking to be considered would allow it and to work out the details of how commissioners show up in that space. So I guess I would ask, is there someone who's willing to move that amendment? Moved by Commissioner Miller, seconded by Commissioner Nelson. Any discussion on the amendment? Seeing none. Again, this amendment is intended to make sure that to work out the details of how commissioners show up in the respective panels that we represent individually. Madam Clerk, please call the roll on the amendment.
Okay. On the amendment, Commissioners Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
thank you, McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Wiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voting in the affirmative. The amendment is adopted, which brings us to the main motion. Is there any further discussion on the main? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Biz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Wiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative. The resolution is adopted and the Oakland County Small Business Stabilization Fund is created. Good news. All right, Commissioner Gershenson, the floor is yours.
Thank you. The last resolution is titled County Executive, Additional Emergency Funding for the Coronavirus Pandemic Response Measures. Mr. Chair, I move to recommend adoption of the foregoing resolution.
Moved by Commissioner Gershenson, seconded by Commissioner Weipert. Any discussion on this? And I mean, maybe some context on what was discussed in committee. Commissioner Gingell.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that we all stay focused on the reporting of how this money's being spent. We've asked for weekly reporting on a line item basis, and my understanding is that that's going to continue from the administration. Again, we need to be urgent, but we need to be wise. With the 1.5 million we allocated last meeting, the 1,850 we just allocated for the economic package, and this 5 million will be up to $8,350,000 that we've allocated. It's a crisis. I totally get it and understand it, but we need to be prudent and responsible of where that money's going, how it's being spent, and making sure that we're watching the overall tally as we go forward. We need to do what we have to do, but we need to be smart about it.
Very good. I mean, good point. In fact, there's Commissioner Spiz.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just two points at this point before I put in our amendment. I still noticed in the packet, at least the latest packet I'm looking at, the first be it further resolved still has the $1 million call out in there we talked about in committee. Is the intent to leave that in there, or is the intent to go back to the original version?
There is an amendment. It's on page 235 of our packet that to go back to the full 5 million.
There it is. Okay. I didn't see that one. I'm sorry.
Yep. So, I mean,
Okay.
So I guess, let's explain the amendment for a second. So there was conversation just for all the other, Commissioner Middleton, I'll get you just a second. Just in context, what was discussed in the EOO committee when this proposal was brought forward. And the proposal is to appropriate 5 million. And then originally the discussion was we would dole it out in portions starting with $1 million. Since that conversation and talking with administration, there is, and given the situation that's at hand, the need for, access to the full 5 million has become apparent in terms of the cost of what the PPE equipment is and the quantity that's required. We're not talking in 100,000 quantities. We're talking upwards of 500 million quantities. And we can talk further as much as people want to know, but I know that the members of the committees that have been part of the conversation now in committee, but since then, that makes the need to go to $1 million. There's an amendment that on this page that will be looking for a motion that does three things. One, it enshrines the stuff that Commissioner Gingell was talking about to weekly reporting. The last appropriation had monthly reporting. This brings it to weekly reporting to all members of the board. Secondly, it says that any reimbursement, and the expectation is that many of these expenses are subject to considerable federal FEMA grant reimbursement. Though, when those dollars come in, they come back into the funds that these dollars are being taken from. And then the last thing was, to Commissioner Spiz's original point, to strike the be it further resolve clause that we added in committee to make the full $5 million available, because we want to make certain that those who are on the front lines of managing response are folks in Homeland Security, Health, and the administration have the resources they need to support folks. So, Commissioner Spiz.
Mr. Chair, Mr. Chair, if I may, is Mr. Carlson still on the line? Because what I'd ask for everybody, if he could expand on the cost that we're looking at for these PPEs relative to, for everybody that's on the phone from the board and anybody watching, if he could expand, because I know we're talking high volume of product, and the cost as from what you would normally buy on a normal day has doubled and tripled. So just to give everybody a good feel of what kind of monies we're talking about here, just for PPEs. John?
So from a procedural point of view, can I get a motion for this amendment in a second?
I'll move it.
Moved by Commissioner Spiz, seconded by Commissioner Kowal. And then I will, take the consideration to open the floor to Mr. Carlson to give that explanation that Spiz has asked. I've got Middleton in the queue, Quarles in the queue.
No,
Yes, sir.
where is this amendment? I looked at this new packet that's sent
Right, the
out.
amendment is on page 235.
Okay, thank you.
So,
Commissioner Woodward, I only have 228 is as far as my agenda goes, so I don't have that. And I looked at it, I'm on the,
Download the latest one, Tom.
it was sent yesterday.
Yeah, the latest one that's on the site right now, you have to download that.
And that's,
There's also an email though. I got it on my email.
Yeah, but I
Yeah,
did send it
so-
to all the Republicans also an email.
So, Commissioner Middleton, while Mr. Carlson's speaking, I'm going to make sure that staff resends, but I think Commissioner Spiz may send it to you as also an email. So if you want to pull up your email. But we'll make sure you have it before we take the vote on it. Mr. Carlson?
Yes, can you hear me okay?
Yeah, we can hear you fine. Thank you for joining us.
All right, thank you, Mr. Chair. Thank you, commissioners, for the opportunity to present some information to you. I know Commissioner Spiz was just inquiring about some items just before I left the office this evening. I did receive a request from the Emergency Operations Center, Tom Hardesty and Scott Guzzi, in regards to N95 mask, putting in an order of 1 million masks that will range and go up as far as $2.10. Now that's better than what we were paying for masks last week, which was up around $3.30, but in part that's with the quantity that we are looking at. Also, we're looking at a machine, possibly two, from Abbott, a $50,000 machine that would help to do testing, cartridges that would do up to 15,000 tests. Each cartridge does 24 tests, possibly $250 each. So those costs alone bring the charges up to about $2.8 million, and that's just in regards to a purchase order that we'll be putting out there tomorrow or Thursday. So I just wanted to give a sense of what we're looking at. Of course, we're all hoping that this thing wouldn't spike like it is, but it's our responsibility to start looking at the supply chain here and make sure that we're being responsive. And so that's why we're requesting the $5 million at this time. But I just wanted to give you a little bit of sense of some of the costs that are taking place right now.
So, okay, 1 second. I'm writing this down. So Commissioner Middleton, do you have it yet?
no, I don't.
I just emailed it to you, Tom.
The email on Spiz it's downloading, but it hasn't opened. It starts with "do you," and then the little arrow is spinning. So
Okay.
I don't think it's going to open.
Okay, well, maybe I can stop it and try to open again. I mean, we can read it in the full entirety. I'm going to go to some other people and see if it comes up.
Sure, thank you.
So I got Commissioner Taub, followed by Commissioner Nelson, followed by Commissioner Zach. Commissioner Taub.
Thank you. All those tests that we're going to be able to do, Sean, I'm certain, and I'm pretty sure that we have a billing mechanism at the county. At least I hope we do, because we can be reimbursed for every penny we spend on those tests, along through Blue Cross, Aetna, through Medicaid and Medicare. So if we don't have that mechanism, we used to have it years ago. Would you check into that for me, please?
Yeah, we'll check into that. And I think it's also the point, and you're raising a good point. FEMA, the items I just discussed with you too are eligible up to 75% reimbursement as well. So I think that's important to note, that those PPE equipments, but I'll also check with Aetna and the Blue Cross piece, Commissioner Top.
As well as Medicare and Medicaid, if you would, please, Sean.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Nelson, followed by Commissioner Zach.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Sean, how soon will the masks be available once purchased, and same for the tests?
On the mask, we'll probably get those in batches as they're completed. So I don't believe we would be getting all 1 million, but we have a quote of 7 to 9 days on the mask.
And for the tests?
And the test, we're still waiting to get some information back on how quickly we can get those machines.
Thank you. And one last thing, Mr. Chair, how will the medical equipment be distributed? Like, how do we choose the hospitals that the masks go to?
The mask, the Emergency Operations Center is working with each of the hospitals and distributing masks and other equipment as those requests are coming in. And they're sharing that information as the requests come in and making sure that there's an equal distribution.
Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Nelson. Commissioner Zhao.
Thank you. I just want everybody to recognize, Sean, that we talked about in the operations committee, that some of this money that we're allocating, we are going to get some of it back from FEMA. What we're doing is giving the county liquidity so that they can act immediately. We will get reimbursed for some of the expense. And there was a sample list of some of our earlier expenses in our packet. So maybe, they were showing us maybe about 75% of it we might get back from FEMA.
That is correct. I also want to state that this, in regards to the mask, we have already ordered masks and have also received those as well and have distributed. So I didn't want to make it seem like we're still waiting for N95 masks. There has been, and people have donated masks as well that we've distributed. And we continually are doing that.
I just want to say thank you for all that you're doing as part of our team. That's it for me.
Is there any other people who have questions for Mr. Carlson? I see Commissioner Taub for a second time. Commissioner Taub.
One other thing, I know that you were planning on using some of those masks and other equipment for our jail, our health department, and those people who work at the county. Is that correct, Mr. Carlson?
Yes, I believe, I don't have the list of requirements, but I do believe that the jail is on that list as well. But I can get the request of, from the jail as well as the different hospitals and send that out to the commissioners to give you a sense of who's requesting what.
Okay, and also the health department, I presume.
Yes.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Chair.
Any further questions for Mr. Carlson? Seeing none, thank you, Mr. Carlson. This is our Deputy County Executive, Sean Carlson. For those who are viewing this fine evening, or whenever you view this rebroadcast, Sean, thank you very much. I think you answered all the questions that people have.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
The amendment that's before us, as stated, I guess I'm going to come back to Commissioner Middleton. Have you been able to get it yet?
Yes, it came on my phone, so I got it.
Came up. Okay.
Thank you.
So the provision, the weekly reporting. So I think all commissioners received the first one. The Emergency Oversight and Operations Committee has asked, particularly Commissioner Gingell, I want to give credit to, asking for it to be formatted in a way that not only tracks weekly expenditure, but also year to date or accumulative expenditures, detailing what is reimbursable through FEMA, through the appropriations that Congress has approved, what the item is for. So we'll be receiving those reports weekly so that we can provide the appropriate oversight. I think as the situation continues to develop, we will see, there's still need out there. And we will be considering those requests as they come. So like I said, this amendment does three things. It codifies the weekly reporting requirement. It states that any dollars for reimbursement, FEMA grants that come back to us go back to the funds that these monies are being taken from, and makes the full $5 million available. Any further discussion on the amendment? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the amendment, Commissioners Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Fizz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Wiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative. The amendment is adopted. Brings us to the main motion. Any further discussion on the main motion? Seeing none, Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
Yep. On the resolution, Commissioners Long,
Yes.
Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Fizz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Wiper,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
A sufficient number voted in the affirmative. The resolution is adopted. So I think that concludes all the items on the regular agenda. Thank you, Commissioner Gershenson. Moves us to reports of standing committees where there are none. Brings us a special order of business. Commissioner Taub.
Yes, I forgot to press the button. Yes, I'd like to defer my resolution till the next meeting. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Commissioner Taub requests to give notice to discharge miscellaneous resolution 19248 to the next meeting. And that is granted. Brings us down to unfinished business. There is none. Brings us to new and miscellaneous business. I believe we have one resolution for consideration right now. Commissioner Nelson.
Yes, in honor of April being Autism Awareness Month, as we did last year, the resolution basically has Oakland County acknowledging that the April 2nd as National Autism Awareness Day.
And Commissioner Nelson moves to suspend the rules to take up the resolution immediately, supported by, who is that? Commissioner Long. All in favor of suspending the rules, say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. The rules are suspended. Commissioner Nelson moves to designate April 2nd, 2020 as World Autism Day, seconded by Commissioner Long. Any discussion? Seeing none. Madam Clerk, please call the roll.
On the resolution, Commissioners Lubes,
Yes.
Markham,
Yes.
McGilvray,
Yes.
Middleton,
Yes.
Miller,
Yes.
Nelson,
Yes.
Howell,
Yes.
Quarles,
Yes.
Fizz,
Yes.
Cobb,
Yes.
Wipert,
Yes.
Woodward,
Yes.
Zach,
Yes.
Gershenson,
Yes.
Gingell,
Yes.
Hoffman,
Yes.
Jackson,
Yes.
Kokendorfer,
Yes.
Kowal,
Yes.
Kuhn,
Yes.
Long,
Yes.
Mr. Chair, you have 21 yeas, 0 nays.
Sufficient number voting in the affirmative, the resolution is adopted. I'd like to recognize Commissioner Zach.
I have a resolution to introduce.
Okay.
It miscellaneous resolution regarding the county exec moratorium on county hiring, creation of new positions, filling of vacant positions, transfers, and promotion.
And that is going to be referred to the Emergency Oversight and Operations Committee, referred to without objection. And that's consistent with the executive's request to support the adoption of this policy for a hiring freeze through January 30th, 2020. Referred
June
without
30th.
objection.
June 30th.
Yes, June 30th, 2020. Referred without objection. Commissioner Gingell.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Chair. I don't have a resolution to introduce, but I did want to just notify the board that I'm intending on working on a resolution that will address a policy around surplus in regards to the DTRF funds, delinquent tax revolving funds. Happy to work with anybody that's interested and planning to get that together as quickly as possible. Thank you.
Great. Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kowal.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I just wanted to add my name as a co-sponsor. I think it's still timely to be able to do that, and anybody else who hasn't had a chance to sign on yet.
Certainly. Yes, if commissioners who want to be co-sponsoring and contact staff, we'll make sure that we add Commissioner Kowal as a co-sponsor of the resolution that was just introduced on supporting the hiring freeze in Oakland County. Okay, I think that answer, I think that's all the new business that I was aware of. Anybody else has any new and miscellaneous business? Seeing none, we're going to move on to the presentation from Parks and Rec. We've got Dan Stencil here that's joining us. Oh, we have a new friend that just joined.
Yeah,
Mr.
Sarge is banging the door down, so it's better to let her in.
Fantastic. Look how big she's got. But we have Melissa Prouse and Dan Stencil from Parks and Recreation. Before COVID-19 broke out across the country and across Michigan and disrupted our normal, we were trying to schedule a joint caucus to kind of talk about some of the thinking. We have a Parks and Rec millage that is set to expire this year. And we want to create an opportunity. I know a number of commissioners, either you serve on parks and been part of the conversation, attempt to pull some smaller groups together to kind of start thinking through the situation. And this is, we found, is the best way to kind of get a sense of information. I know some information was sent out to everybody. Mr. Stencil and Ms. Prouse is going to take us through that, giving staff's recommendations and presenting the situation. This is a very beginning step for action. We're not going to be taking any action today, but this is an opportunity so that all 21 members of the board are working from the same set of information. And then we will be working with the Oakland County Parks and Rec Commission and the full board to figure our way forward. So without any further ado, Mr. Stencil, I'm going to hand it over to you and to you, Melissa Prouse, as well. Thank you for being with us.
All right. Good evening, Oakland County Board of Commissioners, also the Oakland County Executive and his staff, and the general public. I thank you for this opportunity to share some information about the Oakland County Parks and Recreation Commission's proposed 2020 millage initiative being considered for the August 4th presidential primary election. I have a brief PowerPoint presentation to share with you. Supporting me tonight in this presentation is our Chairman, Gary McGilvery, Vice Chairman, David Vanderveen, Commissioner Nancy Quarles, Commissioner Chris Long, Sue Wells, our Manager of Parks and Recreation Operations, Melissa Prouse, Supervisor of Planning and Resource Development, Jody Hall from Corporation Counsel, and Jeff Phelps from Fiscal Services Parks and Recreation Budget Coordinator. So Oakland County is rich in recreational resources with 1,440 lakes, 5 major river systems, over 90,000 acres of public land managed by 4 levels of parks and recreation operations with the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, Huron Clinton Metro Parks, our county parks, and local city, villages, and townships. One of the benefits that we have is our residents don't necessarily know whose parks they visit, but we all benefit from the fact that all of these parks and recreation agencies do a great job of providing a safe, family-friendly, well-maintained parks and recreation experience for our residents. Oakland County Parks currently has 14 parks, with the opening expected of the Holly Oaks ORV Park sometime later this summer. Nearly 7,000 acres, 2 million visitors, all of the 5 golf courses, the 80 miles of trails, 3 dog parks, 2 water parks, the farmers market. We also have an innovative mobile recreation program that features 3 buses, portable stages, climbing walls, zip lines, and an array of inflatables. We also reach nearly 2 million people through our recreation outreach of all the programs that our Parks and Recreation staff puts out, which is over 1,400 programs per year. And we do all of this with 75 full-time staff and over 700 part-time staff. We also utilize a tremendous amount of volunteer assistance. Some of the programs and projects that we've done over the last 10 years, we assumed the operation and maintenance of the Red Oaks Nature Center in the park of 38 acres, now making Red Oaks close to 200 acres of very innovative parks and recreation programming and facilities on top of unusable former drain. We also have taken over the food and beverage operations of 3 golf courses. We also provide the concessions at the 2 water parks and the Groveland Oaks. Catalpa Oaks, we have a restroom facility there, picnic shelter, playgrounds, a 0.6-mile trail that will open this spring, as well as an upgraded irrigation and drainage for 2 soccer fields. We also acquired Independence Oaks North, which protects the headwaters of the Clinton River, 188 acres. We created the Red Oaks Dog Park and a connector trail that goes from John R. all the way up to DeQuinder. We also acquired next to White Lake Oaks, 42 acres. Normandy Oaks Partnership, a 3-year commitment of nearly $1.1 million to create a regional park in Royal Oak. The Holly Oaks ORV Park, which is the unique collaboration between the Michigan Department of Natural Resources, planned to open up in the late summer of 2020. We've also increased programs countywide for special events and additional services. Just to give you a little historical perspective, when the park system was created 54 years ago, we had 1 park and 190 acres. And at that time, that $250,000 was dedicated to grow and expand the park system. Since then, we now have 14 parks and nearly 7,000 acres, and our millage has rolled back to 0.2329, which is all that we have to maintain and operate the park system. The finances right now, over the last 5 to 10 years, we've deferred a tremendous amount of our maintenance, and using a term that the Road Commission has used, we've kind of kicked the proverbial can down the road and taking care of things with the highest priority for repair. We've also had a robust capital improvement budget of nearly 5 million plus, that has shrunk down to $1.5 million per year. And our net position decreases largely because of unplanned factors, such as salary and fringes increases, the compensation study that was undertaken by the county, as well as internal services funds for things like IT, corporation counsel, et cetera. We've also had a tremendous increase in just maintenance. We have over 230 structures in the park system that we maintain. And we've also experienced the Headley rollback, which is about $700,000 per year. The Parks and Recreation Commission has a unrestricted net policy, which is that at any time we need to have 50% of 1 year's budget in reserves for that proverbial rainy day, the day that the millage doesn't pass, that we have some operating funds. So this gives a little history of where that's headed. And if you follow that blue line, it's heading significantly below in 2023, below our reserve. Some examples of our deferred maintenance just is asphalt. We have over $100 million in asset value for asphalt, whether it's a cart path, a trail, a parking lot, or a roadway. The next 4 slides are Waterford Oaks Water Park. Back in 1976, remember, a county that has 1,440 lakes. We were the 3rd water park in the United States. And that facility is now 44 years old, and we've updated it several times, but it is starting to really show its age. The next 3 slides are from Red Oaks. This is at the Nature Center, and some of the decay of asphalt. We recently did some insulation there, as well as a new roof, some new doors. This is a golf cart tunnel on the Red Oaks golf cart. That it's a galvanized tube that needs to be replaced with a concrete box cover. Nearly 25 miles of perimeter security fencing needs to be replaced. Previous millages, we've been very blessed. From 1966 to 1985, there were 5-year renewals. In 1990, it was changed to a 10-year renewal. And you can see the growth of popularity from 1990 to 2010, when we had 76.6 vote affirmative. We do countywide surveys periodically. The most recent one was in 2017, and you can see the top 10 actions that respondents were most willing to fund. And you see fix up and repair older structures, playgrounds, roads, parking lots, trails, and boardwalks. Our millage options, in looking at there are some graphs and charts that support this. The 0.25 rate no longer is sustainable. 0.3 barely gets us to the point where we can start addressing some of our deferred investment. But if we want to do some value-added services and take care of some of the capital needs, a 0.35 is what we're recommending. In your packet, you may have received that we talked about eliminating vehicle passes for senior citizens, veterans, and individuals with disabilities. We also look at providing a source of trail money to grow the trail network across the county, as well as looking at programmatic outreach countywide, and then possibly looking at dedicated funding for the invasive species management countywide. So looking at the potential value-added programs, you can see this chart talks about what could be generated by a 0.35 millage rate. And then in terms of our current recreation assistance program partnership, which is a $200,000 grant program countywide, where it is our effort to take our mobile recreation program on wheels and take it around Oakland County to provide most needed recreation programming to the masses of Oakland County. If you look at the millage options for a home with a market value of $200,000 and a taxable value of $100,000, the homeowner pays approximately $25 per year. And if we go to 0.35, we're talking $35 per year. So you may ask, where do we go from here? Our recommendation as a staff and commission currently is to look for an increase to 0.35 mils. There is talk, possibly several years down the road, about a future bonding effort with rates now kind of in flux. Prior to that, they were very favorable. We could possibly bond for some of those things and take advantage of economy scales for large projects like asphalt and heating and cooling systems, as well as roofs. We as a staff and commission will continue to evaluate our programs, services, and facilities and reallocate resources as necessary. We will also continue to look at fees and charges and provide the residents of Oakland County the best in recreation programs and services. You also received a 2020 millage consideration and recommendation. That's kind of like an executive summary of the presentation that I just gave you, as well as a spreadsheet of a 10-year projection of the millage estimates. So if there's any questions, I and staff are here to assist you.
Okay. Thank you, Dan. I want to open up to commissioners. So I muted a couple people because background noise. So I'm going to unmute the people that I muted. So hold on a second. So Dave Vanderveen, you are now live. And then I don't know who caller 27 is, but whoever it is. All right, I'm muting you. So if you're caller 27, if you think that's you, call Chris. So I will, if I can get cameras. Now, 1 second. Cameras. All right. Actually, I need some. Melissa, can you take down the presentation?
Yep.
Okay, so I can see everybody. There we go. Perfect. All right. So, like before the start of the presentation, this is an opportunity for park staff to make certain that all the information, everyone will be operating from the same information. There'll be opportunities to continue to reach out to park staff to digest a lot of the information, some of the numbers that Dan presented, but give a framework of what people are thinking. Is there any questions for Dan, Melissa, other parks members, and what have you? I see Commissioner Gershenson. Just raise your hand if you have another question. If you want to ask questions of Dan at this time. Commissioner Gershenson.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Dan, thanks for the presentation. I thought it was really clear, and I really appreciated you laying out what you need.
Well, thank you.
I would like to just for comparison, I understand what a 2.5 and a 3.5 would the resident would be charged on a $200,000 home. What are they being charged now?
What are they being charged now is 0.25 rolled back to 2.329.
But what does that turn out to be on a $200,000?
$23.29.
So the first raise that you were looking at was 0.25. That would have been $25.
Correct.
So from 23 to 25 on 2.5, but to go to 0.35, it was $35.
Total.
Right.
Total. Not
okay.
increase total.
Right. And that would be the optimum for what you feel you really could make improvements in the park system.
We could always use more dollars to invest in the recreational assets for Oakland County residents, but it's you have to feel comfortable as commissioners in your due diligence, as well as when we go out to the voting public to get their input.
Thank you.
Commissioner McGilvery, and then followed by
Thank you,
Commissioner
Mr. Chairman. Thank you, Mr. Chairman. First of all, I just want to start off by saying Dan and his staff has done a fabulous job in going through all the material to investigate this possibility of increasing the millage. In that, in 1966, we had only one park, and the millage was at 0.25 then. Now it's down to 0.2329 so many years later, and we have 14 parks. So they've done a great job with the money that we've received over the years. I think it's important that we try to catch up on the maintenance. We're behind about $21 million countywide. The asphalt, the roofs, any new amenities and programs. The other thing that I want to mention too is that both Dan and his staff, as well as all the past directors and staff members for the county, as well as all the commissioners that have served on parks, we work real hard. We have formed a sustainability committee where we can look at what we need to cut. There's been talk about golf courses being closed down because they're losing money. We're looking at that. The Waterford Wade Pool is another one we've looked at. So we're looking at ways to try to cut, and we will continue to do that. But it's still important that we try to catch up on this, all the maintenance projects that we're $21 million behind. Maintenance and capital improvement projects. So I support it. So
Thank you, Commissioner McGilvery. I got Commissioner Hoffman, followed by Commissioner Zach.
Thank you very much, Chairman Woodward, and Dan Stencil, thank you for the presentation. You guys do a great job. I have two questions. One, what does 0.25 mils generate a year versus 0.35 in millions of dollars? But we also have to remember this is not just on people's residence, it's on all real property in Oakland County. What does that generate?
Okay, there is a spreadsheet. Sue, Jeff, or Melissa, do you have it quicker than I?
Yep, I can answer that. I've got the spreadsheet up. So at 0.25, the estimated funding for 21 would be 15.4 million approximately. At 0.3, it is 18.4, and at the 0.35, it jumps up to 21.5.
Okay, my next question is, and Commissioner McGilvery and I have talked about this before, about maybe closing down or seeing what we can do about some of those facilities that don't support themselves. And I know Parks and Recs in general aren't supposed to be moneymakers, but my concern over the years has always been that we have golf courses that compete with free enterprise. And I don't think that golf courses are supporting themselves. And I just wonder, we've talked about things to cut. Have we come up with a list of things we should cut or will cut?
But Sue Wells leads our fiscal sustainability group. We meet on a monthly basis and have a number.
Dan, just one second. If you're not talking, can you mute yourself? Because we're getting some feedback. If you're not talking, if you can mute yourself, please. That person, whoever that person is. Okay, I'll find you.
Whoever that person is, get out.
I'll mute you. All right, that's perfect. Thank you. Thank you. So yeah, so just nope. I'm gonna find you. Is that you? That was Mr. Vanderveen. So I muted you, Dave. I'll unmute you after the questions asked. But Dan, I'm sorry. So go ahead and ask.
So I was saying that we have a fiscal sustainability group that's led by Sue Wells, where we look at different operations and so on how we can do things more efficiently. Maybe we can repurpose a facility to something else, especially at Waterford Oaks, where we took out a body flume water slide about 8 years ago. Then we took out a water slide last year, a group raft ride. So it's some attrition to a 44-year-old facility.
Dan, if I may.
Go ahead, Sue.
Good evening, commissioners. We have identified certain areas that we're looking at. In the challenge we have historically had is conference centers and golf courses were all lumped together under one budget center. And our golf courses, they do lose money, but not as much as one would think. Springfield Oaks this year actually made money. Where our challenge is, and many of you know that, is with our conference centers. And that is one of the top things that our list that we are evaluating.
And I mean, to that point, I mean, Dan, can you also, you or Sue or anybody else on the team, I think speak also to some of the property that we have. It's not so much easy to say, okay, we're not going to do this anymore because of how we acquired the land. Can you speak to a little bit like the land acquisition and what's required to unload some of that?
Exactly. With a number of the acquisitions in the park system, there are deed restrictions that prohibit us from liquidating assets. And there are some efforts that could potentially be done through a conversion or through a mitigation process, but it is long and lengthy. For example, we have been working for over 5 years on a cell tower that's located at Addison Oaks on less than an acre that we've been held up and not blackballed, but we're penalized that we can't get full points when we apply for grants because of that conversion.
And then also, if any repurposing of land other than the recreation that we acquire through the recreational trust would have to be paid back fully.
Correct.
To unload that property. Okay, that was news to me when we learned some of that.
Not a real easy process.
Got it. Commissioner Zach.
We're not throwing our hands up by any means.
Right. Commissioner Zach, and anybody else who has a question, raise your hand.
And I want to go through this one potential value added program chart that you talked about. I'm trying to understand, if we went up to the 30.35, how much does it cost us to just run things as it is? And then how much money do we have for the repairs? If I look at 2021, it says total residual millage funds at 35, and that's almost 700,000. Is that additional money we're taking in? And then
Well,
you have,
it's additional money from what we're bringing in now at the point 23229 that is that could be used for the trailways, the partnerships, and the invasive species.
okay, so that's beyond,
700,000 equals those last three columns.
got it. And so that would be additional revenue to support other things.
Yeah, and this is something that other counties in Michigan have done. St. Clair County, Wayne County, Ingham County, where they share some of their millage dollars with local units of government to support recreation opportunities.
Okay, so it would be trails and then other partnerships. You would have some money in there.
Correct.
Okay,
And-
and then what about the capital repair? Within the 0.35, how much money would you have for capital repair?
Okay, if you go to that 10-year projection, it should be 2 sheets. There's a summary of millage estimates over a 10-year period, fiscal 21 through 30.
Right.
If you go down to option C,
okay,
this is where we're talking about in 2021, we have $600,000 for capital equipment. That's like mowers and tractors and utility carts. Capital improvement, we would have 2.5 million. And then, then we would have another 2.3 million that could be used for deferred capital.
okay.
So now we're talking almost $5 million going to capital improvements.
It would be helpful. For many years, we've been talking about the sustainability idea of, what property we have. I would love to see which properties are potentials that we can get rid of, that don't have deed restrictions, things that we can considerably, shrink our footprint. I don't have a sense of that. Or the conference centers, what are we doing to reduce our overhead?
We could do a report for you, and one of the reports that we would share with you is the grant restrictions, and when you get down to, there isn't a lot of wiggle room, a tremendous amount.
Okay, because, this is gonna be a tough sell in my community, so they're gonna be asking a lot of questions about it. And, why do we have so many golf courses, things like that? What are we trying to do? And I can't explain that. So it would be helpful for me to see that.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
Commissioner, we got Commissioner Gingell. Anybody else? Commissioner Gingell. And then
Yeah,
Commissioner
thank you,
Whitford.
Mr. Chair. Thank you, Mr. Chair. Just a couple things as the Parks and Rec Commission is thinking about this. I mean, I've certainly supported the parks and know their value. And I also understand that we've gotten to the point where the money we're bringing in is barely supporting operations. So I do support the concept Commissioner Zach just put out about shrinking the footprint. But the second thing I would say is, could the Parks Commission consider a moratorium on the acquisition of any new property or assets for a period of time? Because we might as well not increase the issue we've got here. And the bigger thing I would say is, if you look at what a lot of the school systems are doing, they're going out for an incremental millage or a sinking fund to do exactly what has been put out here around fixed capital improvements. And I would just urge the commission to look at that, because rather than increasing a 10-year millage, maybe it would be wiser to say we're going to keep that rate the same, and we're going to have a secondary sinking fund for a shorter period of time for specific improvements for the parks, very similar to what the schools have done. And to my knowledge, I think most of the school sinking funds have been approved.
We can certainly look at that.
Commissioner Wiper.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Did you say that, Dan, did you say that part of this proposal is going to be free access for veterans, disabled, and seniors?
That is a current proposed idea.
Is that going to be in your proposal for 0.35? You factored in what the loss of revenue from sticker sales and then the groups are over 10 years?
Yes. That's correct.
And then you don't anticipate that 5 years into this, you're going to have to reinstitute fees to that group?
We're not anticipating that.
Okay, because it always backfires if the
Sure.
public does not like to be told one thing and
Sure.
have to go back on it. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner.
Commissioner.
Go ahead, Dan.
I was just going to say is what's happened in Parks and Recreation, not just here in Oakland County, but across our state of Michigan and across the nation, is we went through a period of time in the 60s, 70s, and 80s where most parks and recreation agencies acted like a recreation developer. And as soon as they acquired parkland, the next thing they would do is get a master plan, and then they would start building. And what we're experiencing here in 2000, 2010, and heading towards 2020 is the upkeep and maintenance and operations of these facilities are tremendous. And if you look at our past track record, Highland, Rose, Orion are basically parks that are undeveloped with a trail network and a parking lot or two for people to access and to hike. We have down at Catalpa, we did invest several $1 million there, but that was on a 24-acre parcel that needed some help to make it functional.
Thank you. Next up, I got Commissioner Tao.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. I want to reiterate what another Commissioner Gingell said. I think we have to say no more parks, no more property. If we have enough, in fact, we can't keep up what we have. The second thing I wanted to ask about are something called other partnerships. I'm sorry, I don't have the document that Mr. Zach referred to, but what other partnerships are you talking about?
Partnerships were possibly park development similar to what was done at Normandy Oaks, where the Parks Commission could potentially partner with the local unit of government for the enhancement of park that has regional benefit.
Well, that again, that's another thing that we're adding onto the agenda, onto the budget. And I don't know if we have room for it there with all the property we own. I have another question as well, another thought. We don't know what's ahead for this summer. We don't know if there's going to be summer camp. We don't know if golfing will be permitted. We don't know if swimming pools will be out there for kids. We really don't have anything going for us. And on top of that, we're gonna have a ton of people out of work for a period of time when they're just praying that they can feed their children and pay their mortgage and maybe they can put gas in their car, that's practically free. But everything else costs money. So I have major concerns about the citizens in this county raising any millage at this particular point in time. I have great concerns with that. If we don't have golf, we kiss the golf courses goodbye. That's for sure. And we don't make money on a lot of them. I wish we'd closed them years ago. That's another story, or some of them anyway. And so I have concerns about that. And I want to also add that in the city of Sylvan Lake, we went through this a number of years ago. When we had a school that was the property was donated for educational purposes, and it was falling apart. No one could tear it down, and they couldn't sell the property, and so on and so forth. But finally, they got to the heirs, the people who gave the property to the city or to the school district, whatever, and they were able to tear the building down. People understood that, hey, this is not being utilized anymore. We don't need it. So I think some of the property that was donated to you was private property that some farmer gave to you, or somebody gave you their mansion or something. If it's not, I think the first thing you have to do is look inward before you start raising taxes and see how we can unload some of the stuff that maybe just isn't working. I don't want us to make tons of money on anything. I just like to break even on stuff, if at all possible, and particularly on the golf courses. So that's all I have to say. Thank you, Mr. Chair.
And Commissioner Taub, is there anybody else that wants to speak for the first time? Seeing none, Commissioner McGilvery for a second time. Oh,
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I just want to say I sit on the Fiscal Sustainability Committee, and a couple of the things we're going to look at. We have 17 residential properties that are on park property where we rent out the houses. And maybe it's time that we consider offloading some of those properties. It's only costing us more money to maintain the residential properties, and we're not really benefiting that much at all. So that's one item. The other thing is, like I say, we've talked about Red Oaks Golf Course in my community, Madison Heights. It's over top of the drain. It's one of the biggest losers in the way of golf courses, and we are looking at that. But at the same time, we didn't want to just close it down because there are a lot of seniors and kids that play there. So we've been looking at that, but that's probably first on the list, I would think. So we're definitely looking at other ways to cut. It's not like we haven't been. And I agree with one of the comments, I forgot who it was that said it, any additional property, we need to look at real hard. And, you know, every little bit costs, whether it's putting in a trail, a fence around the outside of the park, whatever it is, we can get free property from people that donate it to us. But at the same time, it can be a large cost along the road. So that's all.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Hoffman for a second time.
Thank you, Chairman Woodward. I am not opposed to parks at all. They should not have a profit motive to start with. My objection is in the, with golf courses is, I use the Pontiac Country Club in Waterford as an example. They pay $75,000 to $100,000 a year in property taxes. And if they sell the tee off time, the hamburgers, the beer for the exact same price as the county, they're still upside down by $75,000 or $100,000. And I guess to put that in perspective, I am in the rubbish business. Some people are in the cabinet business, the blueberry business, the apple orchard business. And I think that just imagine the county going in that type of business and competing with you. I just think that part is wrong. But I mean, setting property aside for parks, we should continue to do that because that will just, be a great thing for our county over the next 100 years. But I just can't see competing with free enterprise. I think it's not right. And, we have these banquet halls. How dare we compete? The private guy could not take money and go spend what the county did to build White Lake Oaks and ever think he's going to make a profit. And then on top of that, of course, he's got to pay taxes too, as the Pontiac Country Club would have to. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Commissioner Kokendorfer. And then,
Great,
Dan.
thank you. Great, thank you, Mr. Chairman. Obviously, I support the parks. I have in the past, still do. My family loves using them every summer and throughout the winter. But there's a theme here in our conversation that keeps on coming over and over again, that we need to look at conference centers. We need to look at golf courses. We need to look at certain properties. And we are. It almost feels premature. I'm not at a point today where I could support an increase without having information about some of the potential cost savings out there. And I'm glad that Commissioner Zach had mentioned maybe getting a list of some of the golf courses that we're looking at and what some of the associated costs for closing them would be. It just, as I sit here today, a millage increase just feels premature in light of the questions that we're raising.
Thank you, Commissioner. Dan, I just saw your hand up.
Yeah, well, I was just going to comment on the banquet facilities. Historically, we had long-term leases on those facilities where the public had no use of those facilities. In most recent negotiations, we now have the opportunity to use those facilities for public recreation. And to that end, our Recreation Program Services Group has done a number of innovative programs utilizing those facilities like a community center. So we may not necessarily be generating, well, we are generating some revenue, but we're also providing much needed programming.
All right.
Dan?
Yep, Sue?
I also want to give a little history on golf courses and conference centers. The golf courses, we have sent out RFPs for the operation of the golf courses, and all 3 times they came back where we could operate them more effectively and efficiently and at a cheaper or a inexpensive cost than what their RFP came back at. Also, staff has been working very diligently through this group to find other ways to use the banquet centers. For example, White Lake Oaks no longer has a exclusive contract with a food service provider. If you would like to rent it out, you would rent it out yourselves. You could cater it with whomever you want to. So even though we are not out of the banquet business entirely, we're trying to change the model of how you could provide we can provide a service there.
Thank you, Sue. Any further questions from commissioners at this point? There's going to be, Commissioner Luke.
I would like to say I'm a great proponent of green spaces, and there are many communities in Oakland County that do not have enough green space for their population. So I am in favor of moving forward. Again, I have concerns about the timing because of the crisis we're in right now. Somehow I can't see too much farther past that. So this might be something we want to look at once our crisis has passed.
In terms of timing, we have to have our ballot language if we are going to go for some sort of renewal or increase. Has to be to the clerk's office by May 12th. And our current millage does expire December 31st of 2021. But to my knowledge, there isn't any countywide elections after November.
Yeah, you're right. Thank you.
Commissioner Long.
Yes, it's so in listening to everyone, it sounds like we need to have more conversation about the millage increase or where we're going to put it. So I guess we need to somewhat stay connected on this and see, because it would be better if we all I would like us all to agree on what we're putting on the ballot. I think that would be nice. So I think we need more, it sounds like we need more conversation and people need more information at this time.
Thank you. Well, to that point, Commissioner, the whole point here was to make sure everyone has all the information in front, including the recommendation. Talk about it, digest, keep asking questions, and we will find ways to continue to deliberate about it. We're not making decisions tonight. Commissioner Taub, for a final time.
Thank you. I haven't been able to get it in my head, I guess, about if we raise the millage to whatever it's whatever Commissioner McGilvery would like it to be, that proverbial that house, quote unquote, that's $200,000, appraised at 200, and you only pay 100,000. How much would that person pay in that house?
At the 0.35? At the 0.35 level, $35 a year.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. So I think we've talked about this. I think all commissioners should continue to reach out to staff, get clarification, talk to people in your local community. I think we'll be deliberating, like Commissioner Long said, longer than we have on some of the other recent renewals out there. And we will come back to this question, but at least now we're all operating from the same bit of information, and then we will find a way to convene, and I know the Parks and Rec people will convene too. Commissioner White.
Would it be a renewal and then a separate request for an increase, or would it be just a blanket, we want a renewal of 0.35? I mean, is there going to be written as two different proposals, a renewal of the existing and an increase, or would it be just one proposition?
Jody, are you on?
Yep, I'm right here.
Look at that, out of the blue, our corporation
Out of the blue. Commissioner Weipert, can you repeat your question again? I just was trying to.
I mean, the current one's going to expire, right? So we're at the deadline of the 10 years.
Yes.
So would there be two proposals for a safety net? Would the voters support a renewal and a separate increase, or would it be one chance?
Well, I would think you would have one ballot question, and whether or not you want to go, and we've talked about these different options. You could go just for a straight renewal at the 0.2329. You could do a renew and replace with the 0.25, or you could go increase to 0.35. But those would all be one ballot question. You wouldn't have separate ballot questions for that.
We could also look at Commissioner Gingel's suggestion of the sinking fund and come back to you with some thoughts about that.
Okay. All right. Thank you, Dan. All right. So I think Commissioners are at all the questions that folks want to ask right now. Like I said, this is the very beginning of the conversation. We will continue this conversation, but now, everyone is operating from the same bit of information. And I think staff will be working on gathering the additional information that people were asking. Commissioner McGilvery.
Yeah, just a comment. We have a Parks meeting on April 22nd, of which our Parks Board was going to present this. We've discussed it already, but we'd like to take a vote on it and then pass it on to the full board because of the May 10th or May 12th date that we have to have it in. So that's kind of where we're at right now. So if you'd like to talk around with each other, feel free to call me, any of you. I'd be more than happy to talk to you about it. But we'd like to try to get a consensus so that we can all be together on the same page. So as soon as possible.
Thanks, Commissioner. Commissioner Middleton.
Yes, the May 10th date, is that for the August primary or for the November election?
That's for the August.
That's the August primary?
That's for the August primary.
So it's September is for the November election, isn't it?
Yes.
There's an August, I think it's mid-August or early August for the November election.
Thank you.
Okay.
Mr. Chairman?
Yeah. Who?
Dick Vanderveen.
Oh, hey.
I just want to echo the sentiment that you need to be united on this because it's going to be a tough sell. I'm with Gary on that.
All right. Thank you. All right. Seeing no further questions this time, Dan, Melissa, Dave, Sue, Jody, everyone from Parks that made their time to be here and share this information. Really appreciate it. And we'll be in touch. And thank you for being willing to entertain all the questions.
Thank you.
All right. Seeing no further.
Chair?
Yeah.
Chair, Commissioner Jackson, could I just say one thing? I missed this during our comment before the Parks and Recreation presentation. Tomorrow is April 1st. And April 1st is Census Day in our county and the United States of America. And what we have to make sure that we do, as commissioners, first and foremost, I don't know if you have received this in your mail, if you can see this. It's your census letter, and it'll have your unique identifier on it, as well as the website, which is my2020census.gov, to enable you to respond via the internet, or you could call in and get information with this form as well. Our efforts have changed drastically because you know that we are not together. And we were going out as a group, a complete count committee on the county level, to events. And we were planning an event that was going to be held at Great Lakes Crossing to invite our local complete count committees from all over the county to participate. But now we had to start all over. And so what we're doing, we're organizing more press and online events, virtual events, to continue getting the message out that we have to complete the census. So I just wanted to reiterate today to you all, my fellow commissioners, any Facebook posts that you could make would be helpful to our efforts. Our two census representatives are now regrouping. We're looking at doing online promotions, phone banking, working with restaurants who are still doing deliveries to have stickers and promotions placed with food delivery, virtual town halls in our cities, especially our hard to count cities like Southfield and Pontiac. Also, we plan on partnering with food giveaways, because there are very few gatherings that we are allowed to have right now, other than maybe people that are picking up food in giveaways or picking up food in restaurants, or us working through online promotion. So please, 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 just whatever you can do within your own social marketing or networking, please put out a message about the census. All right, so tomorrow is April the 1st. Hopefully you have completed your census or received your letter. And we just have to go forth from where we are. And there'll be more information as we go throughout the month. April is a very crucial month for the census. The responses are requested and required, and then beyond the end of this month, that's when the enumerators will start to go out into the field. So I just want to say happy Census Day tomorrow and all that we're dealing with. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Jackson. Very well noted. Tomorrow is Census Day, the day that counts. And I know Commissioner Taub regularly talks about those college kids that are away at campus. Guess what? They're home.
They're back.
They're back. So we're going to count them. Commissioner Taub?
That's what I want to say. It's a whole other thing. The people who are in Florida that who are staying down there just because they want to stay there, but they pay their taxes here. I've had that conversation with several people. They need to be counted here. Florida is very tricky. They send out census forms to everybody. Okay, so even Michigan residents get if they're living in an address, say for a month or two. So everybody, please, if you're counting Oakland County, we'll get the money. That's wonderful.
There we go.
That's
Absolutely.
right. We want the
That's
funds, and the funds are going to be more crucial than ever
Yep,
after what
absolutely.
we're going through.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Thank you, Commissioner. All right, seeing
Thank
no,
you.
are there any other announcements? Seeing no further announcements, I'm going to adjourn the meeting to April 7th, 2020 at 7 p.m. or call the chair. Thank you, everyone, for being here, and